Champions are not made in the public. That's why whenever you find a boxer that gets ready to go and prepare for a fight, he goes into training and he goes into isolation. I need to talk to the people who feel like they're in isolation. Don't despise your isolation season, because that's the season God is saying, I'm coaching you. That's the season God is saying, I'm preparing you. That's the season God is saying, I'm shaping you and I'm molding you. But here it is, you cannot allow excuses to keep God, amen, from developing you the way that he wants to develop you. You can't keep talking about, I'm sore, I'm hurt, I'm broken. People going all the way back to your past. You can't do that, because God is saying, I'm not developing you because of your past. I'm developing you because of your purpose. I have a purpose for you. And here it is. A lot of us will sit in frustration during the season of development. Let me give you scripture. Go to Acts. Acts 7. I want to show you. The Lord began to deal with me, because sometimes we don't feel like champions. Sometimes during the process of God developing us, we are ready to submit and give up. And I need you to know that every phase of the step where God is developing champions in us, that we all go through some hell, because your heart is not made strong. Your heart is not made strong if you hadn't faced no kind of oppositions. And God is saying, I need to strengthen the hearts of my champions. That's why a lot of us will deal with disappointment, or we'll face disappointment. And if you don't know how to handle disappointment, we'll almost lose our minds, because our hearts have not been conditioned. Acts chapter 7, verse 22. Verse 22. I want to show you here. Verse 22, you have it? All right, verse 22, it says, and Moses was learned in all wisdom of the Egyptian, and was mighty in words and in deeds. 23, and when he was full 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren. Come on now, God is getting ready to start developing a champion. And he says that it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. Verse 24. And seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended them. Defended him, and he avenged him that was oppressed, and smote the Egyptian. Verse 25. For he supposed his brethren would have understood how that God by his hands would deliver them. But they didn't understand, but they understood not. Okay? Look here in verse 22. It says, Moses was learned in all wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and in deeds. Does this sound like the same Moses that's on the mountain saying, God, I have a speech problem, or I have a stuttering problem? This does not sound like the same person. I need you to understand that when God is getting ready to develop a champion, he has to change our surroundings. He has to change our surroundings. God turns around and he takes Moses and places him in the house of Pharaoh to be trained and taught. What it says, he was learned in all wisdom and was in, what here it is, and was mighty in words. I don't know no stuttering person that's mighty in words. Mighty in words, big vocabulary. Mighty in words and in deeds. I need you to understand that when God is preparing a champion, a lot of times he pulls us away from our own people. And he'll place us around people who can help develop us and push us to the place that he has plans for us. Sometimes being around certain conditions, certain people is not conducive to pushing us to being the champion that God is calling us for. Developing a champion has everything to do with your heart and your ability to believe. The word develop means leading toward fulfillment. Number two, it means to expand or to enlarge. Our problem is whenever you're complaining about God expanding and enlarging us, then you are complaining about how he's developing you to become his champion. Anytime we stray away from the development of what God wants to do in us, we telling him that we don't want his training. We telling him that we don't want him to be our coach. All right, develop. Number two, it means to expand or enlarge. What we had to understand as you was listening to the audio that was filmed back in 2015, here it is. We was at the point of we was being stretched. We was to the point to where we couldn't see this place. We was at the point to where we couldn't see nothing greater coming out of where we was at. But one thing that didn't change was our praise. One thing that didn't change was our worship. One thing that didn't change was our ability to assemble together in small places, yet still believing God for something greater. I shared last year, some time ago, that one of the greatest things as a leader for me was to preach greater in small places. Because you're trying to get people to believe something good is about to come out of being confined in something that is not even big enough to fill up for 10 people. But yet you coming with a great word to tell people that God is developing us for something great. Listen, that place right there will make you almost lose your mind. Because when God is developing you, it's not according to your own ability or how you last, but it's according to how you trust in his strength and his ability of how we're going to last. Here it is. Number three, develop also means to aid in growth. While God is developing us, he is saying that I want to aid in your growth of strength. Growth. Strength. Only thing I see how to develop is increase. How God is saying that I am preparing you to be better. I am preparing you to be stronger. I am preparing you for greater. But here it is. We'll take the word development and we'll use it as something wrong or something bad. And God is saying, listen, sometimes, Sister Tammy, we'll be in places that we want to be in. And God is saying, but I'm developing you. I'm expanding you. Listen, some of us not even strengthened until we get into a place to where we can't depend on nobody but God. Some of us, you don't know your own strength until you get to a place of being secluded and being by yourself and being broken and ready to give up. But there is still something left on the inside of you that says you cannot die. There is something great upon your life. There is something great that God want to do. Here it is. Some of us have not given up yet because we know God has something better than what we've been having. We know that there's something better. December 2015, we were sitting in that small room, Mother Ida, after we have used our kitchen and our living room, transformed my man cave, and put just about 8 chairs in there. Sitting in there, praising God. Sitting in there, but God was saying, if you can allow me to develop you in small places, what God was saying, I'm developing you in small places because I'm getting ready to expand you for large places. If you don't know how, amen, to serve God in being confined in some places that will kneel on job that you don't want to be in, God is saying, but you don't see the greater. I'm expanding you. After a while, you're going to be too big to stay in where you at. You're going to be too great to be confined to small places. This is why God took us from our small room in our house to something this big. Why? Because he expanded us. God would never place you into a place greater than what he's expanded you.